online for authors. I'm chatting with Eric F Goldstein, author of Taught. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks, Terry.
It's wonderful to have you here. Eric and I met I was at a festival, a writers' festival in, where was I? Gaithersburg, Maryland. Yeah. And I was feeling a little out of sorts, and I wasn't even sure I really belonged there. And he stopped up and we started to chat because of my book, 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure, because he is also a cyclist who also did a cross-country adventure of his own. And before long, we were talking, and then I find out that he is a soon-to-be debut author, and all the stars aligned. So I'm so glad to have you here today.
Yeah, this is really special.
It's
still on my windowsill, and books about bike travel are ones I will always read.
Yes, yeah, and it was just so incredible to meet someone in a space like that. That's not what I was expecting. It was really not what I was expecting. So it was really great to meet Eric that
I'm
day.
rarely what people are expecting.
Yeah, that's good to know. Well, Eric, I loved the book, but before we really dive into, the nuts and bolts of it all, can you give my listeners just a quick peek into what they're going to find when they open up the cover of Taught?
Well, a quick peek. Okay. Well, Taught is a story of essentially a road trip, an unexpected, unplanned road trip between a teacher and a former student during the height of COVID in summer of 2020, during remote learning and remote work, and things are shut down. And these two men who have a shared history embark on a road trip through Appalachia, and they have a series of contentious experiences. And they realize not only is the country around them ill and damaged, but within their hearts and souls that they have a lot of work to recover from their ills and damage. And it's a story about family. It's a story about friendship. It's a story about the courage to kind of heal. It's about how we take care of each other in a kind of a world that feels like it's tearing us apart.
Yeah. I'm curious where the idea came from. Where did you come up with this idea of a teacher and a student doing this journey out of nowhere?
Well, I was a middle and high school teacher for 11 years, and I started an education nonprofit called One World Education in 2007. So we're going on 20 years with this initiative. And May and June of 2020, there was just so much yelling and so much tension. And that tension kind of led to the title of the book, Taught, which a lot of people would be led to believe that this was a term of education, teaching, learning, but it was really about tension and about friction. And I was seeing former students at the protests, and I was really proud of them, and I was really scared. And I was really scared of, my wife was on the front lines of medical care in the emergency room. 3 kids downstairs in the basement doing remote learning. Actually, they were doing remote school. I don't know if they were doing remote learning.
Yes, there was remote something happening. We're not sure exactly what it was.
They were remote, which is interesting to say they were remote, but they were in their homes, right?
Right.
And I just started writing to understand all these polarities. And I wanted a place where people weren't yelling, and I could force myself to dive into some of these really complicated issues where I had some friends that felt this way, other friends that felt this way, neighbors felt this way, students felt that way. And my writing was just like an escape from all the yelling, all the noise. And then 2 months, 3 months, 20,000, 30, 40,000 words. And then just all the dialogue I had created, and realized I subconsciously created, characters. And I didn't set out to write a book, but by late summer 2020, I realized with 50,000 words, I kind of started thinking about an outline, and then asking myself, what are you doing?
Are you going to just keep doing this, or where is it going? Right.
It felt fine, like not pursuing a book, because it was therapeutic.
Right.
Then it kind of evolved into a project. And then for several years, that project, I remained disciplined, but my family, I have 3 sons, coaching sports. I work for a really, really important nonprofit organization. This was never the priority, but it was always like early morning, late evening. And then these stories started telling themselves, and I just felt like I was following along.
I love that. That's what happens to me. I often say that I don't feel like an author. I feel like I'm someone who takes dictation. Because the story is happening and I'm just typing as fast as I can to keep up with this story that's happening in my head. Your main character, one of the main characters, is Jerry Brown. He's a teacher. You've stated you were a teacher. I want to know, is there much autobiographical stuff going on? Are you and Jerry Brown a lot alike, or are you and Jerry Brown significantly different, or is it kind of a combo of the two?
Yeah, I instinctively, it's so much the latter. I was asked this the other night at the launch event, and I should have anticipated this question. I think there's like a lot of surface level, benign similarities. Like we're both middle-aged white guys.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But I wasn't looking to hold up a mirror. I was looking for like a tool to help me understand different things that was happening around me.
Right.
The similarities really end right there. And
okay.
I
did wonder as I was reading it. I did keep thinking, I don't know Eric well. I've had the one meeting. We've had several back and forth, emails, but I don't know you. And so I did wonder, like, how autobiographical is this, or is this just he picked a teacher because, why did you pick a teacher? Well, this could have been anyone.
And it is just anyone. We're all just anyone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, education is the professional space that I know well.
Right.
And I probably know best. And I think that the teacher-student relationship is dynamic, and it can be, at times it can be cruel and unsettling and unforgiving. And at times it's teachers who create the strongest influence in our students' lives at times.
Yeah.
And when society is breaking down, you see it always in public schools. Public schools reflect the societies that surround them and that invest in them.
Yeah.
And if you look in some of our most underserved communities, we see sometimes the most challenging parts of society in our schools. And you also see some of the most bravest and most caring educators. And I wanted to really dive into those polarities. But to answer your question, I don't have many similarities with the protagonist other than some of those basic connections of career.
Okay. All right. I thought it was very interesting because he was dealing with having been in this school for a period of time, but he's got somebody new that's come in that's kind of, the head now. And there's been some rough starts and stops with these two. And then he's also, like you said, dealing with the fact that he's now a remote teacher, which is probably not what he signed up for. I know a lot of educators who said that was one of the toughest years of their life, trying to figure out how to take what they do naturally in a classroom and somehow transform it into something that can be done virtually with zero training and no understanding of even how to use Zoom. I mean, it's like, okay, here we are, go do it. What?
Yeah, I want to capture some of that, right? And
right.
I mean, I hope I was able to capture some of that. A lot of the classroom scenes, Terry, got edited out, which maybe in the best direction of the final product of the book was maybe the right thing to do, because the editor asked, like, hey, is your audience exclusively teachers? Because if so, this content will speak to them. But when we decided that was not the exclusive audience, we scaled back some areas. You mentioned something like so many teachers struggle with what they've done naturally in the classroom, but there's so few teachers that whose work leads to exceptional learning who do it naturally. They do it because they have that natural instinct, but because they work so hard to prepare.
Well, okay, so I guess rather than naturally, what has now become natural to them because they've spent, the last 10 years, 15 years doing this, and then all of a sudden they're told everything you've done up till now doesn't count, and we're going to start with something new. Go. And they were like,
and here's a teacher that really struggled, and the experience of the pandemic really started to introduce this teacher to questions about how he really understood his students as people.
as
and not just their minds, which I think he really truly invested in, but the hearts of the students with whom he was teaching, and the trials and tribulations that come with that.
Right.
And it was that was really dynamic to explore and to think about.
So let's talk about that. One of the students, the main student that we hear about, is Malik Drummond. So he's a former student. He kind of gets to show Jerry a different side of life that Jerry hasn't really experienced before. It starts with a video where he sees a video of Malik being beaten during a protest. And I guess it wasn't Malik that was beaten, was it? It was Malik that was beaten. Okay. No, it was someone else. It was another student that was beaten, and then Malik is the one that helps that student. Right?
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but Malik is involved in a
Malik
video.
is involved, yeah. And so, but anyway, from that point all the way through, Malik kind of shows a different side of a life that Jerry Brown believes is true. It's the life Jerry Brown has lived, and it's the life that he sees, and it's the life that he knows. And all of a sudden, he kind of now has a different viewpoint sitting in his vehicle. And he's getting to see it up close and personal. And it isn't always easy for him to accept what he's seeing up close and personal. I also think, though, that it wasn't easy for Malik to see Jerry's point of view up close and personal either. I think it was like they both liked and respected one another and didn't at the same time. You know, it was like there's areas that I liked about you as a teacher, and then areas that I didn't. And he kept bringing that forth. How difficult was it to write from Malik's point of view? Because you are not a black teen, you know, like how hard was it to drop into that and try to see life from that standpoint?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Terry. Just to take a step back. So Malik is as fictional as Jerry Brown, so not a former student of any way. And of all the teachers and students I know, to just create a whole bunch of them for whom to create a mental identity and then to the page. Yeah, you know, to the scenes that you described, I wanted to put people in a place where there was a little bit of a situation and trust, of proximity, and for them to lean into, this is how I see the world, and I see you getting in the way of it.
Yeah.
And both the characters seeing that I think I trust you, but somehow you or those who look like you feel like they're out to hurt me.
Yeah. And
in terms of your question about writing from the perspective of a young black man, I understand the new social norms around writing from people of different perspectives. And several years ago, I reached out to 2 former students and 2 former teachers and said, this is where I really want your help. And I want your minds and hearts to absorb this story, this dialogue, and these voices, and help me capture that. And no one helped me with any writing.
Right, but let you know if you were off base. Let you know.
Yeah, and it was really interesting because I reached out to this small community of educators and students, and they're not students; these are like now adults.
Right.
Now, the students with whom I did reach out to were my former students, right?
Okay.
But maybe a year and a half ago, that's like 2 years ago, when I really started working on like, hey, what do I do with the book now? And someone asked that I work with sensitivity readers and writers, and it's a term I didn't know.
Right. And the answer is you did, but you didn't realize that's what you were doing.
No, so I didn't. So yes, and I just stood there blank, and she said, so I'll presume you did or you didn't. I said, she wouldn't presume anything. I did. I got to put out there, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And she went on to explain it. I said, okay, is from your perspective, then the answer is yes, but I didn't do it for the reasons that you said. I did it because it made me a more informed writer and educator. And it felt appropriate and authentic at that time.
Right.
Diving into I didn't do it because of how the publishing world sees this, or I did it.
Right. You did it because you were trying to be
authentic.
as authentic as you knew how to be, and this is the way you did it.
And it was also a great opportunity for me to reach out to some former students who I've been in touch with over the years. And that was that, like, the initial outreach to them. You know, I keep in touch with students on Facebook and now LinkedIn. And, you know, so many students are kind of like the co-founders of the nonprofit I now work for, because they were part of in the classrooms where it started, right? And what initially started was, hey, I'm working on this project. I'd love your thoughts. And then kind of just rekindled friendships, or actually new friendships, because they weren't friendships before. They were kind of like,
well, it was a teacher-student relationship, which is.
I've told students over the years who I've kept in touch with, I'm like, hey, drop me a line. I'll always kind of meet you out for a burger and I'd love to hear what you're up to. And if you go to, like, you know, if you continue your education, like get me a cool college T-shirt. So I got a few of those, but it was really neat to be part of that. But to answer the question now very directly, then I worked with other people to
but I think that's, you know, it's kind of what now is required. Like, you have to say, I use the sensitivity reader or whatever. And I think that what you're coming across is, I think, what good authors have been doing all along. That when we write characters that are significantly different from us, we do our research and we reach out to people and we ask and we question, and that's what a good author does. And we almost don't need someone telling us that we need a sensitivity reader if you're a good author, because you're doing it already. You're doing it without even contemplating what it is you're doing. You're just doing what you believe needs to be done in order to write a good book.
Yeah, I wasn't up to date on the
right
lingo and whatnot, but
and it's really come down to that. I have a book, Sunflowers Beneath the Snow. It is about Ukraine. It came out prior to the war, so it was just a crazy coincidence. The book came out a month later, Russia invaded, and it was just like, oh. But I have actually had someone say to me, I am highly disappointed you're not Ukrainian. So, okay, well, I don't know what to do with that information. I'm not Ukrainian, and I didn't try to claim I was. And, you know, I feel that as an author, we should have the ability to write from wherever the story is telling us it needs to be written. And as long as we do it with the right mindset, I think that what we're going to come out with is something. I don't think I have to just write about 62-year-old white women, you know, because if that were the case, my stories would be very limited.
Yeah, I think sometimes in society we're very selective on
our
own judgment, and I am the steps I took to capture voices that were not instinctual to myself were really authentic and deep. I'm going to pause. This as a helicopter flying overhead.
I hear that.
You know, I don't want to. I have spoken to people over the last year about the complicated themes that arise, and you know, I'm of the mindset, I don't tell people who to love, who to sleep with, who to pray to, who to vote for, and who to write about.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I think that. I think that we need to be, and it's interesting sometimes how that isn't what happens is that there are people who tell you what you can and can't do, and then but in one area and then not the other, or vice versa, and you're like, you know. So one of the things that I've tried to do is I take a look when I'm feeling that way, when I'm feeling judgmental, when I'm feeling like someone shouldn't, whatever. I always try to take a step back and think, first of all, why? And then does that align with all of my other shoulds?
Yeah.
You know, and often the answer is no, it doesn't. I have this belief I'm hanging on to, and it does not align with anything else that I believe. And it's like, we're going to have to work on that, aren't we? You know, and so it's my own mental thing that I do is try to stop, take that step back, reevaluate, and say, where is this coming from? You know, like, why are you holding on to this? If you don't believe all this, why are you holding on to this? and sometimes I don't have a good answer. I have no idea. I just, it's there. And so then you have to like really think hard to overcome it every time it comes up. You have to stop and say, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. But yeah. When someone's done reading Taught, what do you want them to walk away with other than a good story? And it is a good story.
I don't know. Like I know it doesn't belong to me anymore. And that's like
right.
This transition in my mind and my heart for the last few months. I hope that the story serves in classrooms and beyond as a springboard to authentic dialogue about these topics, about education and race and conflict and our polarities. And, a lot of the book is about healing, right? And how do we have the courage to heal and to look inward? And I think the greatest thing that, I came at it from the perspective of a teacher, but really anyone in society, the greatest thing to help other people is to take care of yourself first and make sure you are healthy and that you are going through, whether it's your trauma or your history or things that are holding you back. And that was the confluence in the story of these two men coming together, and they thought they were coming together for one reason, but really they had to look inward and heal their own wounds to really move forward in life. And I don't know, like if people come away with that. If people come away with like it's a well-written story, that's a win.
No, of course, and they will, because it is a well-written story, and it definitely moved me, and it definitely kept me reading. I wanted to know what was going to happen next. I wanted to know about these characters. I wanted to know whether they were going to figure things out or not. Like I really needed to know. So there is that. I think I got a lot of very eye-opening about what it is like to live as someone who's not middle-class white. I live in a rural town in North Carolina, on the beach, where everybody that I know looks and acts just like me. Like this is just, and it is what it is. It's where I live, and this is what it is. And you have the tendency, I think, in our lives, we have the tendency to just believe that everybody's just like me, right? Everybody's just like me. And then you read this book and you think, wow, that isn't like me at all. I can walk into any store I want to any time of the day and wander around aimlessly for hours and no one bothers me. And I had never considered that. It was something I had not ever considered. And it's not because I'm a horrible person. It's because I just never considered it. Yeah. And so I think that your book helped me to open up my eyes a little bit to things that other people are experiencing that I haven't. Yeah. And I think that's good. I think it's good for people to recognize that everyone's experiences in life aren't just like you.
Yeah. It's really powerful. I mean, that's the gift of literature, is to open our minds, open our hearts, and open our eyes. And this is, how we tell the story of our lives. And there was a lot of listening to my heart, a lot of listening with my eyes of what I was seeing around me. And I tried to be as honest and authentic as my heart understood what I was seeing.
Right. And it came through. It really came through in the story. I found it to be very, like I said, very eye-opening for me. I finished reading the book about a month ago, and I still think about it. Like all of a sudden I'll realize that I'm contemplating a particular scene. And I think, why did that hit me right now? First of all, like what's going on that came up? But it's like, I think I'm still trying to absorb how differently two men in the same spot see what's around them. There were times where Jerry saw nothing, no problems. Here, go do this for me. And immediately Malik is like, see, when I go do that, it's going to be a problem. and Jerry doesn't see it. And it's not that Jerry is blind. It's that Jerry, it doesn't happen to him.
He doesn't have that lived experience.
No. And when you don't have that lived experience, sometimes it's hard to recognize that other people do. And it's really allowed me to kind of stop. Now when I see things maybe posted on Facebook, or someone has an experience that is not a shared experience with me, I think that I was more likely to say, I don't know, it doesn't, I don't know. And now I actually stop and think, wow, like that's their experience, as opposed to, well, did that really happen? And I think that's the way I used to think, is that, did that really happen? And the truth is that whether it happened the way they believed it happened or not, it's their experience that it happened that way. And then what do we do about it from there? We have the tendency to believe that our reality is reality and everyone else's reality is something that they've made up.
Yeah, it's perception.
Yeah. And it's true. We all perceive it. We all perceive. I have an editor who just said to me, I'd written a sentence and she said, well, how does she know that? Was her question in the comment of my thing. And I thought, well, she doesn't know it. That's the point. But it's what she believes. Yeah. And that's why she said it. She believes he's here for this purpose. Doesn't matter whether he was or wasn't. That's not, I'm not trying to get at the truth of whether he was there for that purpose. It's what she believed, and that's what then throws this story into this direction. And so I think that we all do that. Yeah. Right?
I think you just answered the earlier question. And I don't try to think of what other people, why they do what they do, and certainly what they take away from what they read. But if people left with an impression similar to yours, Terry, then there was something really, really behind my instinct to put this out into the world.
Yeah, no, I really do. I do believe there is. I'm curious, Eric, this was I'm going to call it an accidental book. You did not set about to write one. So you just, you became an accidental author. And a lot of people do. You're not the first one who did not set to write a book and all of a sudden find themselves writing one. Now that you've written a book, has the bug bit you? Are you going to write another, or was this kind of a one and done and you're going to move on to new things? What's next for you?
What's next for me? Yeah, I didn't get caught up in the titles of this or that. It was even when I approached the editor a couple of years ago, and I knew that our values were aligned and our literary interests were aligned. And I asked her, I said, my box has been checked. This has been such an inspiring and an awakening experience. My question is this worth reading? I know it was worth writing, but is it worth reading?
Yeah, right.
And then the second question is would you like to work on this? Would you consider taking this project on, right? But I kind of consider in the back of my mind her looking at me now and saying, hey, I'm glad this was a really fulfilling experience for you. I don't think this has literary weight beyond your own eyes and your own heart. And that would have been fine. I love writing. It's how storytelling is kind of how I see the world. And I'm going to give this, I'm not writing anything else right now, Terry. I want to give this a few months and understand this phase of a book.
Because this part of the book process is a whole new world. So
it is a new world. And every time I get a little anxious and think about this new title as author, I just pivot in my brain and I just that's when I start thinking about like new characters and new storylines.
Yeah.
Because the idea of being a writer feels for now it feels much easier than being an author, but this really needs to be here. And I wouldn't have had the opportunity to talk with you if this hadn't all come to fruition.
I know. I think this is fantastic. Absolutely. So, hey guys, if you want to keep this conversation going, head on over to Novels and Latte Book Club on Facebook. There, you're going to have a chance to win not a digital, but an actual print copy of Taught. Eric said he will send one out to a winner. So, tell me something you liked or learned during this conversation, and you will be in the drawing. Eric, if someone wanted to reach out to you, talk with you about this book, things that you've learned about your organization, how do they do that? What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, that would be neat. I'd love to be part of book groups or presentations or conversations, whether online or if possible in person. And the website for the novel is onelongroad.com, onelongroad.com. And there's a contact form. And that would be really neat, Terry. Thank you.
Super. Yeah. So I will have that information in the show notes, guys. So definitely go there. Run out, grab the book. It's Taught, T-A-U-G-H-T.
Run, but
no, run out and grab the book, Taught. When you do, and after you've read it, make sure you review it, because as authors, it is really important that we get those reviews. It helps other people know whether or not they want to then go out and purchase the book. And Eric, I want to thank you so much for being with me today.
Thanks, Terry. This was really special. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Online for Authors, where I, Terry M. Brown, author of character-driven fiction and host of the podcast, introduce readers to characters they'd love to invite to lunch. Tune in next Tuesday for another podcast episode.